presentation. We have roughly 10 minutes or so for questions, and I'm sure there will be some. Who would like to go first? Questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Shelley. That was a great...
Sorry, would you mind introducing yourself, Anne?
I'm Anne Gale, Bishop for Equal Opportunity in South Australia. So thank you for that great address. You mentioned reforms to the residential tenancy legislation. You talked about... Is it on? Yes.
It's on, yeah.
Okay. You talked about reforms to the residential tenancy legislations, and they are state-based legislation.
That's right.
I'm particularly interested, and I know each jurisdiction is slightly different, but any particular suggestions you have, you know, from my perspective, discrimination, you know, is a huge issue for many members of our community. So I'm interested in your thoughts, given that private rental is the tenure of availability.
Yes, that's right. They are in each state and territory jurisdictions. That's absolutely right. And as you quite rightly say, discrimination is the issue. When you look at any qualitative study of either families, older people, younger people, the issue is discrimination in the private rental market. And it seems to me at the heart of some of that discrimination is once people realise that, once real estate agents, etc., realise that people are on income support, they make the calculations and realise that they have no capacity to withstand rental increases. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a number of different elements to the work. I think if we look internationally, we have other places internationally where we have longer term tenancy arrangements, and clearly that conversation hasn't been able to really begin in Australia, but we need to see some of the debates around greater protection for private rental tenants. At the moment, I would say the protection rests with the landlords. That's where the balance is, and we've made some strides about that. But I think we need to seed a debate around that. At the practice end of it, we've had some good models across the country, but again, not taken to scale. So they're here as well as in other places. Private rental brokerage has been one, which is this notion that also applies in the employment space of having brokers to broker people's connection to the private rental market, and to broker the relationship, but also to provide the kind of safety and security and comfort to the landlord should things go pear-shaped. So I think at the practice level we need to take some of those sorts of ideas to scale for each population group. But we've also not fully explored, in Melbourne, one of the homelessness agencies, Homeground, have just started a real estate agency for people who are homeless to really broker their connections to stock. The other thing that I've found is that across Victoria, and I can only speak of Victoria, but I'm sure the same applies in South Australia, there are ethically minded people who are willing to provide their negatively geared, that's another policy thing that needs clear discussion, but no time today, negatively geared private rental properties to low-income families. And I think we need to explore those sorts of things. But getting back to tenancy, nothing short of creating greater protections to the private rental tenant is required.
Great, thank you. Look, I realise there'll be many questions for Shelley and comments to her as well. We are out of time because we're due to go for morning tea. So if you don't mind, why don't we go for morning tea, and I'm sure Shelley will be happy to answer any questions.